go.
Staying alive, staying alive. Dan Grider, probable cause. It's Sunday night, December 11, 2022. Glad to have you with us on our Sunday evening accident recap. If you're joining us live in the chat room, I appreciate that. We normally have quite a few people in there, and I really appreciate everybody checking in. I enjoy the conversation, and I get to answer a lot of questions and converse with you, the people who actually take the time to watch these videos on a live basis. It's really cool. The comments stay up even after the live portion is down, but then this video will only stay up about 6 days, and it'll come down. This is my weekly General Aviation Fatal Accident Recap video. 9 p.m. every Sunday night, weather permitting, and today the weather is going to permit. I just got back from Texas. I had to go out there for two reasons. Number one was the CAF crash. I wanted to go visit the site and take a few more measurements and take a look out there, so I just got back from out there. Also, an airplane, a Cessna 205, November 8149 Zulu, crashed last Sunday night, just about time we were doing this video last week. That airplane experienced a terrible tragedy, and immediately I had several people call and text. I did not know either individual, but come to find out they were absolute treasured members of the aviation community in Texas and worldwide. A very fine couple who had only recently been married, coming back from a Thanksgiving break with their dog and Christmas presents, and all of a sudden the mystery is upon us. What happened to these kids? Two very experienced pilots. Jeanette Stone was such a good pilot. Will Stone as well. Both of them fairly accomplished and flew jets and all kinds of stuff. Jeanette Stone had such good reviews from everybody that ever knew her and flew with her. How could this have happened? Scott Perdue from Flywire, the YouTube channel, we talked and he agreed to pick me up, and we went to the crash scene. So I'm going to include that video at the end of this. So I got three big topics to talk about, kind of three big bombshells embedded in this video. Those two are going to have to wait till closer to the end, but I'm going to get to them fairly quickly because really there has been a tremendous amount of fatals in the last 7 days, and we'll be able to sort through that pretty quick. On the way to Texas, I ran into an old pal of mine, Nancy Bradshaw. She's got a YouTube channel. Here's a funny little clip to get us started. This is me and Nancy. We happen to be sitting on the jet in the identical seats here next to each other and didn't even know it until we sat down, and just pure happenstance. Here's this video. It's kind of funny. Another bad day at the office here, flying on an airliner. You never know who you're going to run into. Today, my dumb luck, it's Nancy Bradshaw, YouTuber. So Nancy's not only a girl, but she's a pilot, which is really unusual. I had no idea that girls could fly. So she's
mind-blowing.
She's been telling me this whole time that girls can be pilots, which is crazy. Nancy Bradshaw, she's got her own YouTube channel, and I've been trying to talk Nancy into doing this new deal because she flies. What kind of airplane are you flying?
Gulfstream G4.
A Gulfstream G4. So there's the G11, the G12, the G13, and the G14. She's down there at the G4, so it's kind of it's like
bottom of the barrel.
It's a beginner. It's like a starter baby Gulfstream. Eventually you get up to the G14 and 15 and 16 where the real pilots are.
Yes.
So
G20 eventually.
G20.
Yes.
And then there's me, GQ.
Oh.
I am GQ. I'm a fashion trendsetter.
Yes, I can tell.
Yes. So Nancy's new deal is going to be some vlogs, okay, where she goes to historic places while she's flying her G4 and shoots historic video of something that might have happened at that location.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really cool to do, and I would even watch your videos if you would do that.
There you go. You'd have to subscribe.
I'm not subscribing, but I would.
See, I love the honesty.
I don't subscribe, but I would watch your videos. So I think you should. You would be really good on camera. Go to some places and shoot some video of some cool things that you found and discovered, and show people where you are and what happened at that spot.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
All right, I think we should do it. Other than that, I've been trying to get this girl to shut up. I've been trying to get a catnap the whole time, and she's just talked my ear off the entire time. Nancy, it was great to see you.
Likewise.
I'm going to put you in a video.
All right.
All right, let's do it. If you get a chance, watch Nancy's video. Nancy, Pilot Nancy, I believe is her YouTube channel. Great girl, and we've been friends for a long time. She's going to expand her YouTube channel and do a little bit more stuff. She flies the G4 and goes all over the place. I've encouraged her to make some more travel vlogs, while showing some unique things, even if they're not aviation related, at some of the places that she goes. And I think she's probably going to try to do that. I'll be watching to see kind of how she does that. But if you get a chance to throw her a like or a subscribe, she likes that. And check out Pilot Nancy. Now, while I was in Texas, I had a chance to, of course, besides visit CAF, and I had to visit the 8149 Zulu crash site, which we're going to eventually talk about. And I had to spend a little bit of time with Scott Perdue, which is not good, but I suffered through it. And I'm just kidding. Scott's a great guy, and he puts up with my ribbing. I did get a chance to play guitar a little bit at a party that I was invited to, which was totally fun. Spent Saturday night out there. I want to say thanks to my friend Joe and Mike, Dr. Mike and his wife Joe always put me up out there and always take such good care of me, and I appreciate that friendship and their hospitality. I've always got a warm bed and a place to crash at their house every time I'm in Dallas, and I sure appreciate that. Let's go on and get to the meat of this matter. So the last video just got taken down. It was only up for 6 days. It got 79,400 views, which is okay. It did fine for only being up 6 days. It got 870,000 minutes watched. I typically like to see 100,000 views and 1,000,000 minutes watched in the first 6 days. I've hit that quite a few times. Sometimes I fall short, so this week we kind of fell short. The big draw on last week's video was, of course, the CAF stuff. I've got even more bombshell stuff to drop on CAF stuff here, and not necessarily CAF. You'll see the direction. I've been working on this almost every day since that accident happened. You can see the direction that is going to go as we unfold here towards the end. Let's take a look at November data. Here's the picture on your screen right here. Here's the November data for fatal accidents, general aviation fatal accidents in America. And here's the numbers here. We had a total of 17 general aviation fatal accidents, a total of 36 fatalities, individuals with their lives lost. If you notice, on November 6th, I've still got 809 Delta Mike and E90 listed in Louisiana, flew a non-stabilized approach, hit hard and burnt. That individual has not died. They're on my list only because they're hanging in the balance as of right now. And this individual, I'm not going to name him by name, could sure use our support. The family could use our support. This is a severe burn situation, and it's a horrible situation. We should be pulling for this pilot with everything that we have. There's a chance that he could still pull out of this and get off of my list and still return to a normal, healthy life, I would hope. And that one is still yet to be seen. A burn situation in an aircraft is always horrible, and that one has not been determined yet. I've got it on the list, but the true numbers for November are 17. Let's take a look at December now, and here's our December list on the screen. We're only going to take a look at the ones that are concern us in the last 7 days. One of them was in the previous 7 days, but we didn't know about it, and that is 4676 Fox. That's the PA-28 in Florida. That's a Piper Warrior or maybe a Cherokee 160. Took off over the water. Dave VFR, brand new pilot, beautiful wife and child on board. Christian Cath was 42 years old. He died of AQP number 4. That's inadvertent IMC after takeoff. Now, the weather was clear. How can you be inadvertent IMC? It's because after takeoff over the water, he lost all visual reference to the horizon. He had no idea. He was not instrument rated. He was a brand new pilot. He took off over the water, lost visual reference, and drove that thing straight into the water, just barely a mile and a half off the end of the runway after he took off, headed for the Keys for his whatever that they were going to do. All three died. This is inadvertent IMC, and even though it's not IMC, it's VMC, but it's the same thing as he lost all visual reference, and his brain did not have the capability to process that. He did not have the training, the AQP training, to get on the gauges, stay on the gauges, and go up, make a steady climb, and just keep on climbing, and everything would have made sense. A horrible tragedy, and our wishes and thoughts are with that family, that extensive loss in Florida, that horrible senseless crash down there. Let's take a look at the next one. November 401 Golf Romeo. It's an auto gyro in Massachusetts. I think this is low RPM on takeoff. Jeffrey Miller, age 66, AQP number 6. And what happened is, I'm going to let you listen to the ATC tape here, but ATC kind of rushed him into takeoff. And remember, on an auto gyro, you got to get the main blade spinning before you can actually take off. He had traffic on a 1.5 mile final.
Unable. Number 2, runway 34, clear touch and go. Number 2, clear touch go, for Yankee. Turkey 32480, you could start your climb now and frequency change approved. Cessna 170 Kilo Hotel, continue to hold short, but say direction of departure.
Circle Hotel's hold short, going to be straight out, head over to the practice there.
Order 401 Golf Romeo, order traffic's on a 1.5 mile final, runway 34 clear for takeoff. Order 727 Bravo Hotel, traffic is a gyrocopter departing, runway 34 cleared, touch and go.
Alright, runway 34 clear, touch and go, and we have traffic in sight for 7 Bravo Hotel.
And he accelerated he rounded the corner and gave it the power. I don't think his main blade ever spun up. And just like Dan Milliken, picks up and rolls to the right. And this one, this fellow lost his life in this auto gyro due to that. Jeffrey Miller, age 66. The next one is 8149 Zulu that we're going to talk about in the end. And then November 9142 Quebec is an F-33A. That's a type of Bonanza in Oklahoma. Loss of thrust on takeoff. Chris Lamb, age 53. AQP number 11, loss of thrust on takeoff, and he did not handle it. The witnesses heard the engine quit. He, when it happened, apparently pulled back, stalled the airplane, spun, and it hit very hard. And here's the picture of the airplane. It burnt, and 2 people in there with him, so a total of 3 in that one, and no one got out. And then also I skipped here 99345. That's an air coupe in Iowa. This individual hit a power line on takeoff, and no recovery from that. I don't have his name or his age. But he also did not make it. So that's your fatals, general aviation in the last 7 days. Now let's take a look. It's time to get down to CAF. So I just got back from Texas. I stopped and visited the CAF headquarters and the location here. In advance of this, I want you to know the background on this thing. This is the CAF who has put an air boss in a position who should not have been an air boss. My question was, how did this process actually occur? Well, after further digging, I found out that an organization named ICAS assumed the lead command from FAA on air boss training. And an air boss is a civilian contractor given the airspace and the responsibility for pulling off an air show. So FAA in 2018 has a person named Sue Gardner who writes this manual. It's a 46-page manual and hands it off to ICAS. ICAS is a nonprofit international council of air shows. Now they're responsible for collecting money, application fees from anybody that wants to be an air boss, put them through the course. They charge them money for the course, and then ICAS issues the recommendation that does all the paperwork and does everything and hands it to the FAA for the FAA to sign. At the FAA, there's an individual who actually signs and makes that person an air boss. So ICAS doesn't get to sign it, but they get to do everything except it relieves the FAA of all work. All they have to do is go by what ICAS says to do, and it works. And in this case, this is what happens. So where does the culpability lie on this thing? And there's several sources here that have been bandied around. The P-63 driver, yes, he should have seen it avoid, but I'll remind you that oftentimes when I was flying as a captain on an airliner, before pushback, I would ask my co-pilot, are we clear on the right? And if he said, yes, sir, clear right, I trusted that we are clear on the right. I trusted that he looked out his window and he gave me that clearance. Sometimes air traffic controllers give us a clearance and we have to trust that what they tell us to do, we trust them. So in this particular case, the air boss told these guys to swap lanes. I think Craig, the P-63 driver, may have inferred that because he got that clearance that his airspace was clear and he could change lanes. That's a very distinct possibility. The air boss, Russ, in essence, cleared that airspace for him, and Craig counted on that, and he trusted him, and he flew into the B-17. Some of these things should have never happened. Obviously, Craig should have maintained visual. Obviously, the air boss should not have been an air boss, but it comes down to the question of how did the air boss get to be an air boss in the first place? I maintain that this guy was so dumb, he did not know how dumb he was. Let's go take a look at this video. I'm going to show you from the scene here in Texas here, just shot recently. Here we go. So this is the same spot that video footage was shot from. The P-63 and the B-17 came right across here. You've seen it all many times, I'm sure. I'm back at Redbird, still working on this story here. The deeper I go in this story, the more upset I became. And I'm going to tell you the whole story on this next, because this is the sequence. I'm in Dallas, fixing to go CAF headquarters right now and ring their doorbell. This is the start of this. I hope this is the end of it, because I'm going to tell you how this whole puzzle is all fit together. Let's go take a look. Well, I made it to the center of CAF. This is their headquarters and offices. There's nobody here today, nothing going on. I guess this centers down for me for a question of who's responsible for this. You would think the P63 guy, yes, he's responsible and he made a big mistake, granted. How about the air boss? Yes, he definitely made a mistake. The problem I have here is that the air boss was an idiot, and he didn't know that he was an idiot. He received a credential. He was too stupid to not know that he didn't deserve the credential that he had. My question is, who handed him the credential and made him think that it was okay to have that credential? That comes down to Sue Gardner and ICAS, and most importantly, whoever signed that LOA with an FAA signature on his air boss application that made him an air boss. That's where we got to go with this. There's got to be some checks and balances. An idiot doesn't know he's an idiot. That's all it is. So there's got to be a way to prevent idiots from ending up as an air boss. That's where we fell down on this. Sue Gardner wrote the manual. She signed it, gave it to ICAS. ICAS does the applications, cranks out air bosses and the recommendations, but they ultimately still have to be turned over to the FAA. Somebody at the FAA still has to sign the LOA that makes an individual an air boss. The whole thing is crooked. The whole thing is a mess. I'm not on board with 100% blame on this particular air boss. I'm not on board with 100% blame for this P63 guy. This goes back to FAA purely. I want to know the name of the guy that signed this guy's LOA as an air boss. That's where I'm going. So finally, I had a conversation with Sue Gardner, and she was very pleasant. I had a very nice conversation. I'm going to let you listen to part of that here. Sue readily admits that there's some holes in this thing. The Air Boss manual that she wrote, this 46-page document, has no restrictions or limitations. The LOA that Russ had, issued by the FAA and signed by the FAA, has not a restriction one. No restrictions. I know there's a lot of things that an air boss can do, but there's about 12 holy things that an air boss cannot do.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the manual for their training and qualifications?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And did you look at their letter of authorization?
Yes.
And their letter of authorization only tells them what they can do.
Correct. And I'm interested in what they can't do.
Yeah, I think it was a different approach to it, to say this is what you can do, which implies everything else implies you can't do those things. They cannot, it does specifically say they cannot manage any aircraft that's not listed under the certificate of waiver.
Right, but what I'm getting at is they can't manage an aircraft in flight. The pilot has to fly the airplane. They can't fly the airplane for the guy in flight. They can't do
Correct.
it.
Correct.
But you didn't say that.
I guess, I think it's semantics that it's implied, but if you have a good recommendation for it, I suggest you make the recommendation.
Well, I think...
I understand your point that you're trying to make.
Right, I think we should. I think we should talk about this. But and what this gets back to is the Dallas crash, where the air boss gave an instruction, a navigation instruction to the P-63 pilot, ordered him to change lanes, and in essence cleared the airspace for him and gave him an instruction on what he wanted him to do. And I think that should be a limitation. An air boss can allow the P-63 to fly, but he cannot give an order on what he wants him to do or where he wants him to place his aircraft.
No, I agree with you on that.
Your manual is very expansive, and you've got a lot of stuff in here, but there's some basic core limitations that are simply not in the manual. It gives an air boss complete reign to do some things that they should not. I think most of that is common knowledge. Most of the air bosses I know in the air shows I've been in, most of the air bosses already know where the line is and what they can and cannot do. But it'd be really nice if in the manual, especially for new air bosses, if you spell that out very clearly. Here's some things you cannot do.
Right.
Those are called restrictions or limitations. In the aviation world, we call them limitations, and normally in an aircraft manual, we have a limitations page. What are our limitations? They never trained or told Russ, the new fledgling air boss, what his limitations were. Therefore, he didn't know, and he thought that he could do all this stuff. Who's that on? It could be on ICAS. It could be on Sue Gardner. Really, it comes down to the FAA. FAA is the one that approved the whole thing, and it's an FAA final signature that approved this entire thing. I think there's some FAA culpability. If you're going to hand this off and let ICAS do the screening and recommendation process, you better know who you're approving. And in your limitations, in your training courses, I can think of at least 12 things that an air boss cannot do. Let's take away the word boss out of there. An air boss is not really a boss. He's a facilitator. He's an enabler. He allows things to happen. He's an enabler of the acts in the correct choreographed order, but he's not bossing people around. He's not a boss. He doesn't boss people around. I think air boss is a bad name. This manual, it really hurts my feelings, and I think I finally got my point across to Sue. You're going to do all this trouble and write this manual, this 46-page manual, not a single mention of a limitation to tell a guy like Russ some things that he cannot do. He's not an air boss. He's an air person. He's a responsible party, but he's not necessarily a boss. He can clear somebody to do something who's asked permission to do something. He can allow it, but he can't order it. See the difference there? And that's where I'm going. ICAS opens tomorrow morning, Monday morning. I hope that they dissect me and roast me over an open fire, because I'm going to stand up and tell you this is what the deal is, and this is what I think, and this is the whole thing that got CAF in trouble in the first place, because nobody would stand up and tell you what they really thought. This is what I really think. If you want to call me a bad name and discuss me behind my back, fine, go for it. But between you, you all know that what I'm telling you is the absolute truth, and you've got some holes in some stuff here. You have the opportunity to rewrite this manual, make this thing rock solid. I'm not in love with the whole entire concept. You know, Sue Gardner was in 2018. She wrote the manual. She gave it to ICAS. Then she gets this big award from ICAS because of the manual. ICAS puts her on stage and gives her some money and an award. I think that's conflict of interest. I don't like that either. Here's a picture of her on stage getting her award at ICAS. I'm not in favor of any of that conflict of interest, under the table kind of stuff that I believe has occurred here. I think it should be a lot cleaner and separate from that. We should not be doing any of that kind of stuff. Now, speaking of standing up and having the courage to say what's wrong, I'm going to get involved in a local situation here with a Superior Court judge. I'm going to tell you there's a judge who is improper, who uses bad language from the bench in public. I've got a copy. I've got audio copies of this judge using very bad language from the bench. Also, he has made numerous errors, a lot of errors from the bench, and I believe it's my allegation that this judge is in bed with certain other individuals and law firms. I believe this judge, in at least one instance, has probably taken money under the table to reverse the decision. Here's a case right here. I'm going to show it to you. Here's a case where this judge denied a motion for summary judgment, and after a very brief period of time, he was handed the same motion for summary judgment, and this time he approved it. So my question is, what changed?
Counsel, let me ask you something. Isn't it correct that the lawyers and maybe the parties and the lawyers went before the Superior Court judge initially, and the Superior Court judge indicated, thought they were factitious, summary judgment not appropriate for either side.
That's accurate, Your Honor.
All right, and then at some point after that, you got back in front of the same Superior Court judge, and that's when the summary judgment order was granted. That's the basis of this appeal.
That's correct.
What changed? What changed? What changed? What changed?
In that case, this motion for summary judgment that the same judge eventually approved went before the Georgia Court of Appeals judge. The judge asked the same question. You should read the report that the Georgia Court of Appeals handed back to the same judge. Not only no, but no way. And they spelled it out in their document exactly all the errors where this guy erred over and over and over again. The only way you can make that many errors is when you get paid. And that's all that happened. There's a process here called the Judicial Qualifications Commission of Georgia. We're about to form a commission and a group to highlight this guy and send him in. And here's a deal here. Rules of Judicial Qualifications Commission of Georgia. Article 6, Section 7, Paragraph 7A of the Georgia Commission of 1983 provides that the Supreme Court shall adopt rules of implementation for the removal, suspension, other discipline, or retirement for disability of Georgia judges by the Judicial Qualifications Commission. So this means you catch a guy doing this kind of stuff, you can turn him in as a complaint. They're going to investigate. It's possible they could remove him. If nothing else, he's voted in. If we raise enough ruckus over this, we could get him not re-elected, which is what needs to be. I believe there's some ethics problems here. I'm going to let you be the judge because I'm only going to show you the data, and I'm going to show you all the data. I'm going to show you this case. This is one of the things where somebody has got to stand up, raise their hand, and show you, I believe we've got a bad judge here, and I think something needs to be done here about this. So that's coming up as well. Now, let's talk about 8149 Zulu. 8149 Zulu. You know, this is a heartbreaker. I have to see a lot of crashes on a lot of times. In this case, when Scott and I got to the crash scene on Saturday morning, Jeanette's mother was there, and she had arrived. She came out. I did not speak with her. We did not speak with her, but we gave her space to absorb the moment in her own way. Obviously, extremely torn up, as I was, just to be at this scene. So my question is, what can we do different here? And I want to tell you, people throw this term around, spatial disorientation. Kind of, not really spatial disorientation. This is a scenario. And the thing I want to make very clear to you pilots out here is that something happens in the human brain. We're all members of the human race. We're all wired the same way. We're all going to do the same thing. We're all going to react the exact same way given the same conditions. Here's the condition. When you do something and you're surprised by something, the shock, fear, and surprise that hits you puts a form of fog over your brain. You're even going to lose memory of what happened. You're not going to do the proper reaction because of the shock and surprise of it. When you have training and rehearsal and you're rehearsed for the situation and you're expecting it, all that fog goes away and you make the proper response and you do the right thing. In this case, here's what these kids did. They flew in, got gas, and flew back up. I'm going to rejoin the video here. Here's me and Scott. Initially, neither one of us knew whether this aircraft accident happened on takeoff or landing. Let's rejoin me as Scott Purdue picks me up in Texas, and we get on down the road, headed down to Claiborne, Texas. Mobile southbound with flies. What was it again? Fly.
Hey, I'm Scott Purdue at Flywire.
Flywire. He's got to get his plug in there. He's got a YouTube channel of some kind. I don't know. I don't watch it. I mean,
it's a nitty bitty YouTube channel compared to yours.
Anyway, Scott was nice enough to pick me up today. We're going down. This one's a heartbreaker. So this is the start of the little story for me on this. I'll include a little bit of segment. But this is the Cessna 205 crash that happened just 7 days ago right now. Guy and a girl, excellent couple. They've only been married a few months. Both of them very experienced pilots and flight instructors and all that stuff. And we're debating right now whether this airplane crash happened on takeoff or landing. And that's really the main reason I'm going down here to see this thing. I can't figure it out. FAA says it occurred on takeoff. As you can see on the screen graphic I'm showing you right now. Me and Scott, looking at ADS-B data, kind of thinks that probably happened on landing. What's your nickel in the grass? Best guess. Is this a takeoff crash or landing crash?
Right now, it really looks like they were trying to shoot the RNAV-33 into Cleburne. It looks like an approach crash, or crash on approach. The ADS-B hits are suspect. There's a lot of problems with them, and there's a lot of issues with them. So, and time and ground speed generally. I think altitude might be the one that's reliable, but I think that it just lines up perfectly with an RNAV-33.
I agree, but it's still, I'm still 50-50 on it. So it's either a takeoff crash off of runway 15, where after takeoff they made a descending right-hand turn, or it's an approach crash shooting the approach for 33 and they went left. But it would be pretty hard left to get to the spot where they got. So now we're going out here to see Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is going to tell us everything we want to know, and we're about there.
Yeah, closing on.
Well, big surprise. Now we're in the lobby at Cleburne. And,
Cleburne, KCPT.
Cleburne.
Cleburne. It's named after a Confederate general.
Yeah, it turns out,
well, we talked to some folks here, and we found out that they do indeed actually have video of an airplane, a blue and white Cessna. They couldn't tell the tail number at approximately the time. So it looks like they successfully flew the RNAV-33, landed, refueled, and then took back off again on 15. And they've got video of that, but you can't see the airplane. The weather's so bad that...
yeah, these knuckleheads, they definitely, without a doubt, I'm convinced, they made it in here. They refueled right here. They did not come in this lobby. They put on a quick few gallons and they made another takeoff on 15. And after takeoff, they made a climbing and then descending right-hand turn into this impact site. And that's what we're about to go see right now. But
and that makes it spatial D. Climbing, turning.
That does not make it spatial D, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you're lumping everything into spatial D. There's several categories. This is unintentional IMC after takeoff, which is different than spatial disorientation. Spatial disorientation has your brain telling you that something is happening that is not happening. This is a distraction after takeoff when you lose the lights. They've gone from lights to no lights, and now they're thinking that this is all looking good, but as soon as they go IMC, the human tendency is to lower the nose and try to find Mother Earth again. They did not lose control of the airplane because they were disoriented.
They flew into the ground.
They flew into the ground.
Yeah.
That's different than spatial disorientation.
I disagree.
Okay, well I'm gonna explain that. I'm gonna give a lesson to Scott Purdue on this one, because I'm gonna explain to you this is unintentional IMC after takeoff.
How was it unintentional? When they took off, they just landed in it. They knew it was a quarter mile, 200 feet. So that's not unintentional. They took off into it knowing exactly what they were in for.
They landed because they found the runway, so they had at least a couple hundred feet, and they were counting on that same couple hundred feet, and they didn't get it. They rotated right up into the fog, and they went 0-0 as soon as they rotated. And that part was unintentional. They did not, they were counting on the same weather that they had when they shot the approach, and they did not get it. That's the part that became unintentional. Now they're in the clouds, in the IMC. Number one priority is find Mother Earth again, because they cannot go IFR. You turn right, lower the nose, and try to find the Earth again. Problem is, there's nothing to see out there. It's black. They never saw the Earth. They flew it right into the ground. They were not disoriented. They were still flying. They just flew it into the Earth, trying to find the Earth. That's all that happened on this. Let's go see the crash site.
All right.
On scene with the world's worst camera guy, Scott Purdue, but this is a troubling crash scene, and it took us a long time to find this thing, but basically the airport is right behind us here. So this was, in my opinion, I'm going to discuss this in a little bit further detail. This is not spatial disorientation. This is a little bit different. This is unintentional IMC after takeoff, because they got in the air, realized they were IMC and it's dark, and they descended back to try to find the comfort of Mother Earth again. In the process, they're still in control of the airplane. They're not disoriented. They just didn't realize that they were descending as much as they were. So they descended this way and ended up hitting in this divot right about here. So what they've done here is they've taken all this dirt here and they've scraped all the airplane debris and moved it and replaced fresh dirt over here, and that's how come you see all this dirt piled here in the flags. Now in this pile of dirt over here is tons of airplane debris and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you just a few of the things that we found, including Christmas wrapper. They had Christmas presents with them, and all this kind of stuff is definitely airplane stuff. So this is for sure the actual debris field. It's just been moved from over here. So Scott, let's walk this way. The airplane came on this heading going this way, hit here. This is what I always call the divot. It made a huge divot and a bulk of the airplane stopped right here, and your debris field went everywhere. There's red flags everywhere out here, and then you can still smell burnt dirt here. It ended up right here. The furthest point of anything here is this little impact in the ground right here. I'm not sure what was left, and this is our marker for what's the memorial for Jeanette, Will, and the dog. Apparently Kaida was the dog, and the memorial. Airport is right there. Unintentional IMC after takeoff. Very good airplane, very good pilots, very good everything. They simply did not realize when they came in there and got gas that the weather had gone down even further and they needed to get home. They made a takeoff and rotated right up into blackness. As soon as you rotate, those runway lights are gone and it's black out here. When you descend, you don't know it, but you're descending and turning right, trying to find the comfort of Mother Earth so you can scud run to your next airport. And they descended right into the earth at about, I'm guessing, 10 to 15 degrees nose down and going pretty fast, and it's over. The airplane digs in and makes this, and I'm very sorry. This is this whole thing is extremely disappointing, not only because of the character and quality of the two individuals that we lost, but they were experienced. If this can happen to this couple, this can happen to you. I think we should be more aware of this phenomena. And if you do rotate up into the goo at night, what do? Keep climbing. Climb at 800 feet a minute. You climb like there's no tomorrow. Get on the radio and confess and tell them you screwed up and ask for a radar vector. Ask for help. Don't try to lower the nose and get back out of it again. This will happen every time. Once you're in the goo, you're in the goo. Wings level, straight ahead, up, Simba, up. Go up is all I can tell you. Do not bite off on trying to lower the nose and find the earth again. It's not gonna work, and that's what we proved out here today. Thanks to my buddy Scott for being out here with us. It's always disheartening to see, especially situations like this that are so preventable, but that's the reason that Scott and I do some of these things and come out and visit these things, and I hope that we can all learn a lesson off this one. This is a big one. This is a big one for me. So you can see clearly that was a tough one. These kids were expecting the weather to be at least, I don't know, a couple 300 feet, maybe a mile visibility, maybe something like that they had when they scud run in and made it in there to get gas. When they took off, they did not have that. The lights of runway 15 were now behind them as they rotated up into the goo. What does any pilot want to do? This is AQP scenario number 4, and they were not ready for it. A good airplane. Here's a picture of the panel. It was a great airplane, 2 great pilots. All they had to have done was keep climbing, but they had not rehearsed it. This is why AQP is so important. if they had rehearsed this and known about this, this is a thing. It can happen to you. It happens all the time. Ironically, every one of these crash sites that I go to, the wreckage is always found about a mile beyond the runway and a little bit to the right. Where was this wreckage? About a mile beyond the runway and a little bit to the right. They make a takeoff, they get in the goo, they descend back down trying to find Mother Earth again, and it's not there. They never saw it, never saw it. That fog went all the way to the ground. They never saw a thing, and they flew it straight into the earth, and it's over. It's a scenario. Let's remove the fog, the shock, awe, and surprise of this thing by knowing about it, training for it, and you can practice this with your instructor. Practice it. You keep climbing, climb to 3,000, 4,000, get on the radio, tell the guy that you screwed up, admit it. If there's paperwork, that's fine. Do the paperwork. There's not going to be much paperwork. You declare an emergency and you tell them, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Weather closed in on me, and I'm sorry, here I am, help me. I promise you, ATC will help you. If feds call you and give you a hard time, you call me. I'll call feds. They can't give you a hard time for being honest and confessing that you made a mistake. They can't do it. And if they do, you know what I'm going to do about it, and they're going to hear about it. We have got to be able to have the honor and the privilege of confessing that we made a mistake and asking for help, because those things do happen. As pilots, they do happen to us. I'm very sorry for this loss. I appreciate you watching and hanging through this long video here tonight. I got to a whole bunch of other things coming up in the very near future. I want to tell you that the AQP thing is working really good. Free hat, free DTSB hat. If you want to get AQP certified, this is on me. All you got to do is send me the paperwork, dan@dangrider.com, or on our Facebook page. Here's a picture of our Facebook page. The documents are stored there. I just got another note and another thing from another instructor here, and I'll read you part of this note here. He's talking about his student. He said, in the debrief, he said, it was the best training he'd ever had, and that's on you. We did on IPC as well. He wants a repeat in 6 months. Thanks, Jeff Rowland. So this is a guy named Jeff Rowland who's done 2 AQP deals for his students now, and his student in his own debrief said, this is great information, and I want a fresh one of these every 6 months. That's fine. I'll send you a hat every 6 months. If you'll do it, it's on me. It's free. Free shipping, free hat, free sticker. Get your training. Ask for the training. Go over the AQP maneuvers and try to stay alive. My Airborne Animal Rescue site is on the page here if you have an opportunity to donate $1 or $2 towards me and my Airborne Animal Rescue efforts. All that is going good, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen after the first of the year with all that and the DC-3. And you're going to see some exciting stuff coming. And if you have donated, I want to say thank you. All you guys who have donated $1 and $2, that's fabulous. You knuckleheads that have donated $5 and $10, I'm going to find you. That's not legal, and I don't want you donating crazy amounts of money. $1 or $2 is totally fine if you appreciate my efforts in making these videos. Got to get out of here for my tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel. Dan Grider, Probable Cause.